What a beautiful life. Happy podcast day, CEO teachers. Refreshed, rejuvenated, recharged, all the things, and grateful. So grateful to be here with you today. Thank you for joining us for the CEO Teacher Podcast. Today, we're going to share a little bit of a reflection of what our year has looked like here on the show. And I love these types of shows. I love listening to them because as a podcaster, it kind of helps guide me on what I want to do for the future. And if you're not a podcaster, if you're not interested in anything like this, I do still want you to listen because it's really important to me to hear what you've thought of this year's show, how we can improve it for next year, because you are the future of the CEO teacher. And if we're talking about things that don't entertain you or don't help you in your business, then we want to make that right. Friends, as an end of the year celebration, I would be honored if you would leave us a review inside of Apple or on Spotify. That would mean the world to me. It's kind of like a way for you to say thank you for us creating this content, but also for us to be able to share our message more with the world. Now, I know that we don't do everything right. I know that our intros are too long sometimes. I know that sometimes I just talk about my life, and I know that I'm not always going to give you exactly what you want. You can go to our views and read about that. But I just ask that you go there and you share a little bit about what the CEO teacher has meant for you, maybe for your business. And I hope that we are moving into a place that's going to help you grow even more in 2024. But before we get there, let's take an end of the year reflection on a year that we decided we would have no podcast interviews. I don't know if you knew that or not, and what our company has done and what it has meant. But we took an entire year off of interviewing other people and bringing them on the show. And here today is exactly what we learned. I'll see you in today's show. What if I told you couldn't lose? That I could give you a sure bet, a smooth ride to finally loving the art of teaching again. I know it sounds crazy, but it's funny how when something sparks inside of you, when your heart gets lit back up, that you can change your life for the good, not only in the area of teaching, but really in every single thing that you do. I remember this aha moment when I was a teacher and I was sitting there teaching other people's kids. And I thought, man, I'm getting paid to raise other people's children while I'm paying someone to raise mine. And that didn't sit well for me. So I started thinking to myself, how can I make extra money? How can I provide for my family more so that I can do this part-time, or I can leave if I want to, or I can teach just in a different way? And I started thinking, how can I help other teachers? And if you're thinking to yourself, but I'm just a teacher, I don't really have any other skill set, I want to say thank goodness, because that is our specialty. Teachers supporting other teachers. It's exactly what we do here. I want you to start living the life you deserve. The 10 steps to get started selling your teaching resources online is your roadmap to help you take massive action and prioritize the most important things in life. I'm going to show you the strategies that I took when I began my journey, and I started living a life not only of my dreams, but now the life that I live and breathe every single day. I want to give that gift to you. Go to CaseyMorris.com/10 steps to get your brand spanking new workbook. I can't wait to change your life and give you some hope and some dreams again about teaching, because this is what you were meant to do. It just might be a little different than what they told you in college. Again, it's CaseyMorris.com/10 steps. You can type it in your browser like KAYSEMORRIS.com/10 steps. So before we get in, just so everyone's clear, I am a lover of people. Like, it is my thing. People are my thing. I love learning about people. I love talking to people. I get my energy from people. And so doing an entire year of no podcast interviews, I really missed people. However, I do believe it allowed us to laser focus in on what was working and what wasn't. We got to look at our podcast episodes and see if the mountains were going up and down, and see really what you want to learn about and what you don't care to learn about. Sometimes you listen to an interview because you're interested in what the other person has to say, but not necessarily the topic that they are talking about. That may not make a lot of sense, but you may be interested in the person rather than the content. And that's really hard for us to really navigate and figure out, are you loving what they're saying, or is it just because of who they are? Amy Porterfield once said, podcasting is an amazing way to share your story, build a community, and have a positive impact on the world. And Adam Carolla said, podcasting is the ultimate on-demand platform. It's giving listeners the power to choose what they want to hear and when they want to hear it. If you're thinking of starting a show, I want you to remember that consistency is key. We show up every single Wednesday. It's going to be ready and available for you to get it on wherever you get your podcast every Wednesday, and it has been for the last 5 years. Is it 5 years? 18? So the last 5 years. Holy cow. Did you know that 464.7 million podcast listeners are around in 2023? 41% of Americans have listened to a podcast within the last month. And the top 3 reasons people listen to podcasts are for entertainment, to learn, and to have something to listen to while you're doing something else. I thought that one was interesting. So, when we teach things inside of the classroom, when we talk about the reason why you write, right, is the PIE method: to persuade, to inform, to entertain. So think of it that way, but entertainment is one, to learn is another, all aboard the CEO teacher train coming by. And then to have something to listen to basically while you're doing something else. For me, I like listening to a show when I'm over music in the car. I like listening to a show when I'm walking. I don't like to listen to a show when I'm running. I can't do that. But I do like to listen to shows whenever I am needing to fill a time gap. 30% of published episodes are within the 20 to 40 minute range. And Tuesday at 5 a.m. is the time slot with the most downloads per average episode. Potential audience sizes are dependent on your show topics. So today, I wanted to give you the 4 different types of podcast styles that you could offer to your community in 2024. The first is solo, which is what we did this year. It's just me and the microphone. It's where the host is the sole creator of the content. The next is an interview where you bring people in, you ask them specific questions, and you get a lot of feedback. We loved doing interviews for so long, but we started to get overwhelmed with the amount of people that wanted to be on the show. And then sometimes we were just bringing people on the show that weren't prepared. And so that ended up taking up a slot where we felt like it wasn't enough great quality content, and we didn't want to undervalue our show. Sometimes we bring in really, really prestigious people and we get this hit of dopamine because our show just goes through the roof. Hello, when we brought on Amy Porterfield to the show. I'm so excited about our first podcast guest, our first interview in 2024. Oh, it was the best interview of my life. I can't wait. I'm not telling you who it is yet. You're going to have to wait. But, just thinking about an interview is, in the beginning, you're not going to be able to get prestigious people on your show unless you have some sort of insider scoop or someone, you have a connection. But as your show begins to grow, it does open the door of opportunity for you to be able to have more people to come on your show. The next is you could have a panel, which is like a group of people, and you can host the show together. I know that there are some teacher podcasts that do that where they all kind of sit at a round table. I know that there are other shows and things on YouTube. I think about Dude Perfect, my kids love. That is an example of a panel version of a podcast. And then there is repurposed content. This is where you can reuse your long form content as a way to use SEO to explain a concept in detail. I think about Neil Patel and his show here. He'll write a blog post and then he'll create a podcast episode from that. Now let's talk about some pros and some cons of each. The reason why solo podcasts work and the reason why we did them for the last year is because they've helped us really build and establish our brand. When you have a solo show, it's easy to edit and publish your own show, whether you do that by yourself or if you have a producer. It also allows you to get laser focused, as I mentioned before, on exactly what your audience is resonating with. And it helps you develop your style, know what works, what doesn't, and get very clear, find that clarity on how you want to go forward. Now, the pros and cons of interview podcasts are that they help you open up your audience to a new perspective. Maybe it's something different than what you've practiced or what you've preached before. They allow you to access new content ideas. I know every time I talk to someone that I interview, I'm always like, no way. Oh my gosh, that's so important to know. Working around other people's schedules, though, can be a little bit frustrating because it sucks whenever you show up and you wait for 10 minutes and then the other person does not show up. Because that happens. Not necessarily as much now as it used to, but that can be really difficult. And then it also can be difficult to find guests that align with your business practices. It's a full-time job. Like, we have someone reaching out to people that we want to interview constantly, but our standards are really high. So we want to make sure that we're getting the best quality people for our show. Now, let's talk about the pros and the cons of panels and repurposed content. Panels is when you bring a bunch of people onto the show, right? And a pro is that you can do this with students, you can do this with your team throughout the year. So, we like to have a panel show a couple times a year, quarterly when we're talking about financials or when we're talking about planning. Our team does a great job at that, or maybe we want to bring some of our students on. It's easy for us to create those episodes because it's kind of like a round table. We sit and chat. Our audience, they love to hear from other teachers. So it's really good for our listens whenever we bring people on the show. But some cons is that it is very difficult to edit multiple guests, and scheduling a time that works for everyone can be difficult. And then also, you have to be a good interviewer. Keeping the conversation moving in the direction that you like, it's a very, very specific skill. It's one that has taken me years to get good at. I can create a podcast outline now, and I know that when I start the conversation, I can get every question on that outline answered following the conversation. However, when I first got started, I was so serious about getting the questions answered that the conversation did not flow. It did not feel good. And so that just takes time of you talking to a lot of people, of learning how to influence a conversation, not necessarily in a bad way, but just to have it going in the direction that you want it to go. Now, repurposed content or reusing those blog posts or reels or videos or captions, it's good because it helps you understand a main idea of a topic and know, I want to repurpose this for a show, or I want to repurpose this for social media. So you really have to get clear on the overall main idea and the theme of what you're going to talk about. A con is that we believe that your main idea content should be your podcast first, then repurpose it. So a lot of people, they put all their eggs in the blogging basket or a YouTube video first, and then the podcast is secondary. Our podcast is the number one part of our triangle that we do for marketing. This is number one. Everything else falls behind that. Social media is behind our show, YouTube, Facebook, everything. So think about that as you're creating we call it our core content pyramid inside of our business school. We want our core content at the beginning, and then we teach them how to break that away into 10 easy digestible parts every single week. What do you want that core content pyramid to look like? And what do you want at the very top? Now, let's dive a little deeper into the data. Here's some fun data for you, though, if you're thinking about starting a new podcast in 2024, is that in the first 7 days of a podcast episode, if you get more than 32 downloads, you're in the top 50% of podcasts, which is not that many. You can do this. Did you know that if you get more than 122 downloads, you're in the top 25%? More than 484 downloads, you're in the top 10%. More than 1,153 downloads, you're in the top 5%. And more than 5,277 downloads, you're in the top 1% of podcasts. Like, come on, teachers, we got this. We can do this. I don't want you to compare your podcast download numbers with YouTube plays and social media likes. I want you to look at your podcast growth. And if your chart is going up, that is all I care about. Friends, no one was listening in the beginning. I mean, they were, and some of you were here from the beginning, and I love you for that. But consistency will always be king. To be truly a podcaster, you must create long form content. You must have depth. You must have values. You need to dive deep into topics and provide immense value. Podcasts are powerful storytelling tools with the ability to dive deeper into a topic and provide value over a series of episodes. But never forget that stories are more memorable than data ever will be. I give you a lot of data, but I also want to share what life looks like as well. If you want your brand's message to stick in your audience's memory in 2024, I want you to remember the heart and the soul of what a podcast should be about, and that is storytelling. As I reflect back on this year, how much our show has grown as we've gone over the 1 million downloads mark, and we have truly been blessed. We've been on interviews and articles with NPR, with Gold Digger, and things like that. We've been compared to some of the best podcasts in the world. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. This is the favorite part of my job. I love talking to you every single week. And I'm so excited that in 2024, we're going to be adding a new weekly video edition. I don't know if you remember Teacher TV, but we did this back in 2024 on Facebook. It's going to be every Thursday night at 7 p.m. We are committed to talking to teachers about fun teacher stuff. So yes, we're talking about marketing every Wednesday here on the show, but in 2024, come find us on Facebook. Go to Casey Morris. You can find my business page there. And every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're bringing back Teacher TV. We're going to have teachers from all over the world coming and sharing their heart and their soul, because our mission here on this planet is to make sure that teachers are finding that joy again. And we hope to be a place that you can find it. Come check us out on Facebook, 7 p.m. every Thursday night, starting in 2024. I hope that this year has been your best year yet, but don't worry if it's not, because your best is yet to come. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you next week.